I'm Kusha Karvandi, and you're listening to Exerscribe Radio, the source for biohacking your health to reach your full potential. I created Exerscribe to provide people with a roadmap to working out. With our new workout app, you can get a custom workout program that adapts your workouts to your body type, goals, sleep quality, stress levels, and personal preferences. With live chat support, our workout app has become so comprehensive some call it a personal trainer in your pocket. Our users are seeing over 90% success rates with their goals because we take the neural approach to fitness, meaning we integrate movements and exercises that recalibrate your brain and body to prime you for rapid strength gains and fat loss. Check out the Exerscribe workout app in the iTunes App Store today. In today's podcast, I interviewed Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride. Dr. Natasha is a medical doctor with 2 postgraduate degrees, Master of Medical Sciences in Neurology and Master of Medical Sciences in Human Nutrition. She graduated as a medical doctor in Russia. After practicing for 5 years as a neurologist and 3 years as a neurosurgeon, she started a family and moved to the UK, where she got her second postgraduate degree in human nutrition. She is well known for developing a concept of GAPS, Gut and Psychology Syndrome, which she described in her book Gut and Psychology Syndrome, Natural Treatment for Autism, ADHD, Dyslexia, Dyspraxia, Depression, and Schizophrenia, which is now in its 2nd edition. Thousands of people around the world follow the highly successful GAPS nutrition protocol to help themselves and their families. In her clinic, Dr. Campbell-McBride works as a nutrition consultant with many patients with heart disease, high blood pressure, arrhythmia, stroke, and other complications of atherosclerosis. She has become acutely aware of the existing confusion about nutrition in these conditions, which spurred an intensive study into the subject. The result of this study was her book, Put Your Heart in Your Mouth: What Really is Heart Disease and What We Can Do to Prevent and Even Reverse It. Dr. Campbell-McBride is a keynote speaker at many professional conferences and seminars around the world. She frequently gives talks to health practitioners, patient groups, and associations, and a regular contributing health editor to a number of magazines. Hey everyone, we're here on Exerscribe Radio with the author of the book Gut and Psychology Syndrome, Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride. Welcome, Natasha.
Hello.
So, just to get started, could you tell the audience a little bit about you and your background?
I'm a medical doctor with training in neurology and human nutrition. And I have been working with children with learning disabilities and adults with mental illness for many years. And as I was working with these people, I have realized that they not only have mental problems, they are physically very ill. That allergies and asthma and eczema and arthritis and various headaches and various neurological symptoms and fatigue and endocrine problems are widely present in this community. So I started working with patients with those disorders as well. And what I have learned through my clinical work, that what Hippocrates, the father of modern medicine, has concluded about all those thousands of years ago, that all diseases begin in the gut. The more we learn with our modern scientific tools, the more we realize just how correct he was. Indeed, all diseases begin in the gut. And that is the premise of my work now. When we talk about the digestive system, about the gut of the person, we have to talk about what lives there, what takes care of it. We have to talk about the gut flora. Majority of people know that we have bacteria inside our digestive system. Well, an adult on average can carry between 2 to 3 kilograms of microbes inside their digestive system. And the recent research has demonstrated the fact that 90% of all cells and all genetic material in a human body is our gut flora. So our bodies are just 10%, just a shell, a habitat for this mass of microbes living inside us, and we ignore them at our peril. And trouble is, in our modern world, due to overuse of antibiotics and antibiotics in our food, and many other chemicals that we're exposed to in our modern environment at an increasing intensity, we have generations of people with damaged gut flora, where the balance of the microbes in the gut is upset. There's too many of opportunistic and pathogenic microbes and not enough of the good ones. Because in the gut flora, you can divide the microbes into approximately 3 groups. The goodies, the baddies, and the transitory microbes, which just come in and come out. Well, in a healthy person, the gut flora is dominated by the good bacteria, beneficial viruses, beneficial fungi, beneficial protozoa, beneficial worms, and many, many other creatures. In a person who has been exposed to many courses of antibiotics, or mercury in their amalgam fillings, or exposure to other man-made chemicals, or radiation, or other influences in our modern environments, they have too little left of the good microbes in their digestive system, and once the good ones are gone, they get replaced by pathogenic microbes. And what happens in a person like that? As a result, they cannot digest their food properly, they cannot absorb their food properly, so they develop multiple nutritional deficiencies. The second terrible thing that happens to these people, these pathogenic microbes that overgrow in their digestive system damage the integrity of the gut wall. The gut wall becomes porous and leaky, so all sorts of very toxic substances which are produced by these pathogens in the gut suddenly absorb through this gut lining into the bloodstream, and undigested food absorbs, and the alive microbes themselves get through into the bloodstream. And this mixture of toxic things float around the body, and whichever organ they get to, they cause disease, they cause illness, all sorts of illnesses. And if they get into the brain, in a child, that can be autism, or that can be ADHD, can be dyslexia, can be dyspraxia, can be obsessive compulsive disorder, can be any other disorder in a child. If it's in an adult, it can be depression, it can be unstable mood, it can be emotional instability, it can be lapse in memory, it can be psychotic episodes, obsessive compulsive disorders, and manic depressive disorders, and addictions, and eating disorders. The row of diseases is huge. When the toxicity in the brain builds too high, in a proportion of these patients, the brain develops a survival procedure, a safety valve called, which manifests itself as an epileptic seizure. Epileptic seizure is a cleansing procedure for the human brain. The brain sends one electric discharge through and destroys the whole lot of toxins in one go, and that manifests as an epileptic seizure. So the last thing these people need is another toxin added to the equation in the form of anti-epileptic medication. What they need, we need to subtract toxins. We need to remove that river of toxicity flowing from the gut to the brain. If this river of toxicity flows from the gut into any other organ, into the muscles, into the bones, into the heart, into the lungs, into the kidneys, into the liver, anywhere else in the body, they will start disease in those organs as well. So I'm increasingly working with people with disorders which I assign into gut and physiology syndrome, which abbreviates to the same gaps as gut and psychology syndrome. Gut and psychology syndrome covers the functions of the brain, while gut and physiology syndrome covers the functions of the rest of the body in people. And these are the people with chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia and ME, myalgic encephalomyelitis, and multiple chemical sensitivity, people with all of the autoimmune disorders. Autoimmunity is born in the gut. These are digestive disorders. We're talking about rheumatoid arthritis and lupus and multiple sclerosis and amyotrophic lateral sclerosis and nephritis and many, many, many other disorders, which now are considered to be autoimmune. We're talking about all forms of arthritis. We're talking about all sorts of skin disorders such as psoriasis and alopecia and eczema. And we talk about chronic cystitis and many, many other physical problems that people might have. So having worked with these patients for many years in my clinic, I've written my first book called Gut and Psychology Syndrome, where I have covered the functions of the brain and the connection between the state of the digestive system of the person and the functioning of the brain. I'm working on the other book, the other part of GAPS, Gut and Physiology Syndrome, which will come out fairly soon, where I will cover the rest of the disorders, the physical disorders.
That's awesome. So you're coming out with a new book, you said?
Yes, yes.
That's awesome. I will be the first to buy that book, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm halfway through your GAPS diet book right now, and it's just completely changed my life. I mean, the way I look at everything, and it makes me kind of question a lot of the assumptions that were made before. You know, even when it comes to just, in my field, I help a lot of clients not only obviously get healthy, but a lot of clients come to me to lose weight and get leaner. And after reading your book, I started thinking, maybe it's all about their gut health. Maybe that's the first thing we should be looking at is what does their gut flora look like, and maybe they have some gut dysbiosis going on there, which is leading them to fat storage or these cravings or whatever it may be.
Absolutely, absolutely. People are too focused on the way they look. They need to focus on their health. If person focuses on being healthy rather than on the looks so much, then GAPS is what you need to follow. There are many different diets out there where you can lose weight. You can. But will that make you necessarily healthy? No, or possibly not. Where with GAPS, you will lose weight. What I see, people who are overweight, they lose weight. They come to their normal weight, the way it should be. People who are underweight, because many GAPS people are underweight because they cannot digest and absorb their food properly. They're malnourished, these people. They start putting weight on. So their body assumes the proper shape and proper position and proper weight. Another thing that you have to keep in mind here that obese people and people who are overweight have multiple nutritional deficiencies too. These people have too much of one particular nutrient in the body, which is stored as fat. But in terms of all the vital nutrients that the body actually works on, they are severely deficient in, these people. They are starving. Their bodies are starving, despite the fact that they are overweight, these people. So GAPS program will feed you very well. It will build the bone mass and the muscle mass, and it will rebuild your brain and rebuild your immune system and rebuild all other organs in the body. So the body becomes strong and robust and healthy, and it will create a shape which is healthy for it, the way it should look as a healthy body, as a healthy person.
That's great. So, what are the steps to correcting, somebody who has a poor gut flora? What are the steps that they should take?
Well, what we have to understand that the roots of our health are sitting in the gut wall, in the gut. The gut holds the roots of our health. And if you look at any plant, whether it's a small grass or whether it's a big, powerful tree, if the roots are sick, and if these roots are sitting in a sick, impoverished soil, then that plant is not going to thrive. It's going to wilt, no matter how far away the twigs and branches and leaves might be from the roots. The roots of our health are sitting inside our digestive system, and the soil around them is that bacteria, is our gut flora, which, remember, is 90% of you. All 90% of your cells and genetic material in your body is your gut flora. That is the soil around the roots of your health. And just like in our insane modern agriculture, where we are destroying the soils around the world just to get the yield this year, and we're not thinking about the future at all, we have done the same thing to the soil inside our own bodies with antibiotics and with various chemicals and pharmaceutical medications and all sorts of other environmental things that we have created. And if the soil is sick and abnormal, then the roots cannot be healthy. And if the roots are sick, then the rest of your body cannot be healthy. So whatever disease you have, and that is chronic illnesses we're talking about, you have to focus on the gut. That is the most important thing to focus on. So what GAPS nutritional protocol does, GAPS stands for gut and psychology syndrome and gut and physiology syndrome. Both abbreviate to the same GAPS. What it does, it changes the gut flora, it normalizes it, it drives out pathogens and replaces them with beneficial flora, and it heals and seals the gut lining. All those holes in the gut wall get closed up, get healed and sealed. So suddenly that river of toxicity that used to flow from the gut into the blood and get distributed around the body stops. Our human bodies have a wonderful mechanisms for cleaning itself up, for repairing all the damaged tissues, for rejuvenating itself. So once that damaging river of toxicity stops, the body gets to work and it cleans itself up and it repairs itself, every organ, every cell, and the body starts functioning very well in a person. Because this GAPS is a digestive disorder, essentially, and our digestive system is a long tube, what you fill that tube with has a direct effect on its well-being. So diet, what we actually eat, what we fill that tube with, is the most important part of the treatment. That is the most important part of GAPS nutritional protocol. And it's called the GAPS diet. It's very complex, and it's described in my book in great detail with recipes and stage by stage. So for any person who wants to follow it, they can just read the book and follow the diet. But GAPS protocol is not just a diet, it is a program. Apart from the diet, we have certain supplements that we take, nutritional supplements, which are really foods. These are probiotics and some essential oils we take and some other essential nutrients. And lifestyle changes are also very, very important for these patients. We have to stop the flow of toxicity from the environment into the body. And many people don't realize just how many toxins we take in on a daily basis through our skin, through our toothpaste, through our personal care products, and so on. So all of that has to be cleaned up and changed. So it is a program that has to be followed.
So basically what you're saying is I need to stop sleeping 4 hours a night.
Absolutely. Sleep is very important.
Exactly. So you tell me about your other book, Put Your Heart in Your Mouth. I saw that on your site as well. What's that about?
Well, part of GAPS diet is animal fats. Animal fats are absolutely essential for the human physiology and human structure, for the structure of our bodies. If you know that most of the weight of your body is water, about 70% or so. If you remove the water, the dry weight of a human body is 50% protein, 50% fat, thereabout somewhere. So fats, they're structural. Our bodies, half of your body is made out of it. And when we analyze the chemical composition of fats that the human body is made from, the most appropriate fats to feed that metabolism, to feed your own fats, the most similar fats, come from animals. This is lamb fat and beef fat and pork fat and goose fat and duck fat and chicken fat and butter and cream, this sort of things. People that I'm talking about, GAPS people, they are severely malnourished, and one of the biggest nutritional deficiencies they have is in fats. And these are the animal fats that they're lacking, these people, and cholesterol as well, because cholesterol is a structural molecule. About 40% of your brain is made out of cholesterol, and about 50% of your immune system is made out of cholesterol, and many, many organs in the body require large amounts of cholesterol simply for their structure. Plus their function. Most organs in the body cannot function without cholesterol. Cholesterol is absolutely essential for immune system to function, for the brain to function, for your lungs, for your heart to function, for all sorts of tissues and organs. Endocrine system cannot live without cholesterol. You cannot produce any adrenal hormones for energy, for stamina, or sex hormones without cholesterol, because these hormones are made from cholesterol. It's a building block for these hormones. And every time I was starting to talk about cholesterol and animal fats with my patients, every patient was asking the same question: what about heart disease? And having explained to 100th person that these fats do not cause heart disease, in fact they prevent it and they can even reverse it, I thought I better write a book about this. So that was the result. The book, the red book called Put Your Heart in Your Mouth, describes what actually causes heart disease and all the politics behind the whole idea, and what is the right diet to have a healthy heart and to prevent heart disease and prevent atherosclerosis and prevent all the other problems which come with it. And it's certainly not avoiding natural cholesterol and not avoiding high-fat foods, just the opposite. In my experience, the higher the amount of fat that people consume in their diet, the quicker they recover and the more fully they recover, whatever their illness is. The fats that we must avoid are fats which are made by humans, made by man, in our big factories. And these are all vegetable and cooking oils. All of those oils, which are in our processed foods, and our restaurants are cooking on them, everybody's cooking on them. From the very beginning, when these oils came on the market, which was beginning of the 20th century, research started piling in, showing that these fats are poisonous. And that is not an exaggeration, that is an appropriate word for it. They absolute poison, these fats. The amount of damage that they do to human metabolism, to human brain, to human immune system, to every tissue in the body is absolutely monumental. They damage immune system, they cause infertility, they cause learning disabilities, they cause all sorts of problems in people. And these are the fats to avoid because they are chemically altered in our factories. Because all plants, they contain oils which are polyunsaturated, very fragile molecules. They're easily damaged by heat, by pressure, by light, and by solvents. And these are exactly the things which are used in our great big factories where we extract these oils from the plant matter. They use heat, they use pressure, they use solvents, chemicals, and all sorts of things. And as a result, these very, very fragile fatty acids get warped, get mutilated. And you get a bottle of this yellow clear liquid oil, which is full of mutilated, unnatural fats, which the human body doesn't know what to do with. This is pollution coming into your body, very toxic pollution, which interferes with your metabolism, and the body works very hard, spending very precious resources that it has in trying to neutralize them and eliminate them from your body. So nobody should be eating these oils, nobody should be cooking on them, and everybody should be avoiding processed foods which contain these oils. Other fats that are pushed onto the population are margarine, which is another synthetic poison, and various butter replacements and various other artificial fats and oils. So these are the things that need to be avoided. Vegetable oils have been produced on our planet by traditional methods for thousands of years, and the most classical one is olive oil. Olive oil should be cold pressed. It should be produced the way our predecessors used to make it for thousands of years, cold pressed, and first pressing of undamaged virgin, first pressing of undamaged olives. This kind of oil has a spicy taste and a green color, and the value of olive oil is not in its fat, in its fatty acids, which is oleic acid largely, but in micronutrients, which give this oil the spicy taste and the green color. These are antioxidants and phytonutrients and phenols and various other substances, which are great cleansers. And they remove toxins out of the body, they clean your body from the inside. So when we cook with this oil, if we heat it, we destroy those nutrients, those micronutrients. And as a result, the oil just becomes another processed vegetable oil. That is why I never recommend cooking with olive oil. Olive oil should be used on ready-served meals, on salads, and other ready-served meals without heating it. There is a small percent of supplemental plant oils on the market, such as avocado oil and walnut oil and hemp oil and flax oil and evening primrose oil. And these need to be extracted in vacuum conditions, cold extraction. They should be stored in the fridge in dark glass bottles. And even then, a fair percent of the oil becomes rancid, gets warped and gets mutilated. So it's important to speak to the manufacturer, make sure that you get a good quality if you want to take these oils as a supplement. They're expensive, these oils. They need to be refrigerated. Of course, you will never cook on those oils, and they're taken as a supplement. And a proportion of people find them useful, though many people don't. So they're not essential. The essential fats and the 90 or 100% of all fats that you consume on a daily basis must come from animals, from lamb, from beef, from pork, from duck, from goose, from butter, from ghee. Coconut oil and palm oil are another two oils on the market which are very useful, can be very useful and nutritious, as long as they are produced, again, under cold conditions and without too much processing. Unfortunately, majority of these oils are also processed and grown as a monoculture. In Indonesia and Malaysia, when I flew to Kuala Lumpur, I saw like a sea of these palm oil plantations, and they're sprayed and sprayed and sprayed, unfortunately. So again, these oils don't need to be trusted just as they are. If you buy a lamb and you've spoken to people and you know where it comes from, then you know that the fat of this lamb is clean because the lamb was on the grass, and this is the fat that you need on a daily basis. I recommend that when people roast a joint of meat in the oven, the joint will be sitting in liquid fat, always. Pour that fat through a sieve into a glass jar, and it will keep in the fridge for at least 6 months, and do all your frying, all your cooking on these fats. If you do that with every roast you do, with every meal you do, you will finish up with a variety of jars in your fridge with different flavors, different colors, different fats, all very healthy, all very useful and delicious. They will impart a wonderful flavor to your meals. These are the fats that people need to focus on. Heart disease is not caused by fats, not by animal fats certainly, and heart disease is not caused by cholesterol. It is caused by consumption of sugar and processed carbohydrates and vegetable oils in our diet. processed foods that people are consuming. That's what's causing heart disease. I haven't got, obviously, a lot of time here to go in depth into all the mechanism of how heart disease develops. I've described that in my red book in detail. So please read that book and you will understand how it develops. I'd like to say one more thing about cholesterol. Several researchers who worked with inmates of American prisons, and they particularly focused on the violent offenders in prisons, they have discovered initially that almost 90% of these people have low level of cholesterol in their blood, very low level. So if these people went to their family doctor and did a standard test for cholesterol, the doctor would congratulate them and say, wonderful, very good, old chap, well done. You've got very low cholesterol level. And that is very, very bad. There is a proportion of people whose bodies are too toxic or have multiple nutritional deficiencies. As a result, their bodies are unable to produce cholesterol. The major factory producing cholesterol in the body is in the liver. Your liver works on producing cholesterol 24 hours a day. So your blood cholesterol doesn't come from food that you've eaten. It comes from your liver. And the liver produces cholesterol in response to signals coming from other organs. So if you had a scratch or a wound, or you went to a dentist who caused a lot of damage there in your gums and in your teeth, or you had an operation, or you had another trauma of some sort, no healing in the body can happen without involvement of large amounts of cholesterol. It's a structural molecule for all your tissues in the body, for all the cells in the body. So that damaged part of you will immediately send a signal to your liver, we need cholesterol, huge amounts of it. So the liver will get into gear, start manufacturing that cholesterol, packaging it up into little bubbles, into little satellites called lipoproteins, because cholesterol is fat soluble and it can't travel in your blood, which is water-based, without packaging. So it's packaged into lipoproteins. And it packages it into LDL, low-density lipoprotein, and that little shuttle transports cholesterol from the liver to the place of damage to repair it. After the cholesterol has done the job at the place, and some of it gets damaged there at the site by oxidation and other things, and then the damaged molecules of cholesterol are transported back to the liver to be recycled. The shuttles which transport it back are called high-density lipoproteins, or HDL lipoprotein cholesterol. And that transports cholesterol back to the liver from the site of the damage. Our science in its wisdom has called the cholesterol which transported from the liver to the site of the damage the bad cholesterol, and the one that's transported back the good cholesterol. And now the new research has discovered that actually not all cholesterol is bad. Most of it is actually good, because the body knows what it's doing at every moment in your life, and whatever level of cholesterol you have at every moment is the right level for you. The body is doing something, it's healing something, it's repairing something. If you're under a lot of stress, then your adrenals need to manufacture adrenaline and glycocorticoids and other adrenal hormones, and they are made from cholesterol. So your adrenals will send the command to the liver to transport cholesterol to them. So your blood cholesterol will be high when you're under stress, because your adrenals are working very hard. And if you are in a sexually aroused state, again, your blood cholesterol will be high, because your glands need to produce sex hormones, and they're made from cholesterol. Where's that cholesterol going to come from? Again, from the liver. So your glands will send a command to the liver to manufacture that. But trouble is, there is a proportion of people who are too toxic or have nutritional deficiencies, and that factory in their liver that produces cholesterol is broken down. It's unable to produce enough cholesterol. As a result, these people have exhausted adrenals. They cannot stand any amount of stress, any amount of pressure. They fly off the handle very easily, get irritated, get violent very easily if any pressure is placed upon these people. They have sexual dysfunction, they have sexual problems, and a lot of violent sexual crimes are committed by people with low level of cholesterol, who are unable to produce cholesterol. And people who generally are violent and who have poor self-control and poor behavioral control have low levels of cholesterol. So these people in particular need to pay attention to what they eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and in between. They need to give their bodies a hand. They need to have eggs and bacon for breakfast. They need to have large amounts of fats for lunch and dinner, and a good piece of meat with fat on it, and good snacks between, which would contain cholesterol, such as oily fish, which is one of the highest levels of cholesterol. And the same goes for animal fats. We cannot repair anything in the body or accomplish any function, and the brain is particularly hungry for cholesterol and animal fats. So if a person is not eating these things because they have been brainwashed by the propaganda about heart disease, and they're not eating these things, and at the same time their liver, for various reasons, cannot manufacture these things, then their brains are starving. And as a result, their memory is poor, and their learning ability is poor, and their emotions are all over the place, and they can become violent, aggressive, and angry very easily, these people. They cannot control their emotions very well. So they need to eat these things. And what I find in a group of gut and psychology syndrome, in particular patients with learning disabilities and mental illness, their brains are very, very malnourished. They need high amount of proper nutrition. And that is what I recommend in the GAPS diet for these people.
Wow, that's fantastic information. One thing that's really interesting is I did a certification earlier this year through Precision Nutrition by Dr. John Berardi. And John Berardi, he kind of generalizes and says that, 1/3 of your fats should come from monounsaturated, 1/3 from polyunsaturated, and 1/3 from saturated. But I don't feel like those numbers sound, I don't know if that sounds correct. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? It sounds like you should have more saturated fats.
It's too scientific. When things get too scientific, the more scientific they are, the further away from the truth they are, usually. If you think about all the mess that humanity has created on this planet, it's all very scientifically based. So science is not something that we should take as a gospel at all. First of all, animal fats are not all saturated. About 40% of pork fat, for example, is saturated, about 35% monounsaturated, and the rest are polyunsaturated fatty acids. The same with lamb. About 60% of lamb fat is saturated. The rest are monounsaturated fats, and there is a proportion of polyunsaturated oils in the lamb fat as well. The same with beef fat and duck fat and goose fat and butter and ghee. There is no pure saturated fat on this planet apart from coconut oil and palm oil. Even those have a little proportion of monounsaturated fatty acids in them. So animal fats are not all saturated, not at all. They are well balanced. In fact, they are perfectly balanced for the human physiology. They have just the right proportions of saturated fatty acids and monounsaturated and polyunsaturated. Because Mother Nature is kind, it never asks us to do anything so complicated as trying to calculate how many, saturated fats you eat at a meal, or how many monounsaturated or polyunsaturated. It's given us a piece of lamb or a piece of beef or a piece of duck or something else. And that is all perfectly balanced for your human physiology. Just eat it, enjoy it, and you will become healthier from it.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, you're 100% right. So let's talk about some other things. I want to talk about adaptogens and Ayurvedic herbs. What are your thoughts on adaptogens? I know a lot of people are talking about shilajit and ashwagandha and a lot of these other herbs. What are those? How do those play into gut health and psychology?
Herbs, generally speaking, were given to us as medicine because they are balanced. Again, these are natural things. I believe in nature. Mother Nature took billions of years to work out things on this planet. It took billions of years to design our bodies. Every little process, every little biochemical reaction, every little molecule, every little cell has been carefully designed and carefully worked out and balanced with the rest of cells in the body and balanced with the environment as well. So nature holds the truth. Our science is extremely young. If you think about it, human sciences are only a few decades young. So you cannot possibly compare what our science knows with what nature knows, with the wisdom that nature holds. And the herbs were created in nature as medicines for us, but they need to be consumed whole, these herbs. I do not believe in, again, this scientific approach where you identify, well, in this particular herb, this molecule must be the active ingredient. So let's extract this molecule, put it in a pill, and that will be our medicine. That's what pharmaceutical industry does. And it causes an awful lot of illness, these medicines. So it's a whole herb that needs to be used. And when it's used in that form as a whole herb, without processing, with minimal processing, then we don't have to worry about overdosing, underdosing, or causing harm, or causing illness, or unbalancing something in the body. Because the human body has co-evolved with those herbs for billions of years on this planet. It knows them, it recognizes them, and it knows what to do with them. That's why herbal medicine is wonderful, and if you work with a good herbalist, there is a huge array of various herbs that can be used for all sorts of ailments and problems, and they can be helpful. But I have trained many herbalists as GAPS practitioners. I'd like to mention this, that I have been busy training health practitioners in my protocol, in the GAPS nutritional protocol, for the last several years. There's best part of 1,000 practitioners trained around the world, and they're all listed on my website, gaps.me, gaps.me, me like myself, M-E. So people can find them by country, by state, by city, by town. You can go to your local practitioner and get help and get support. And quite a sizable group of these practitioners are herbalists. So these are people who know how to work with herbs. Herbs alone used to be able to help people and straighten up illnesses in the body before the 20th century and certainly this 21st century, because the environment on the planet was cleaner. It was a very different environment. Now we have altered our human environment to such a degree. We have altered our food chain. We have altered the soil composition on the planets. Our agriculture is completely different. The drugs that we're exposed to, the various chemicals we're exposed to. So herbs on their own are not enough anymore. It is the gut you have to put straight first. You have to do the GAPS nutritional protocol first. You have to drive the pathogenic flora from the gut, clean up that area. Because make no mistake, more than 90% of anything toxic and damaging that is floating in your blood and is in your body came from your digestive system. So once you've cleaned up the digestive system, you have removed 90% of everything damaging in your body, pretty much. And you turned your digestive system from being a source of damage for you, a source of toxicity for you, into being a source of nourishment for you. So you start feeding your body properly, you start nourishing yourself properly, and you stop that river of toxicity coming out of there. And the third thing that happens is the immune system. About 85% of your immune system is located in the gut wall. So your digestive system is the biggest and the most important immune organ in your body. And there is a tight conversation and a relationship between gut flora and the immunity in your body. They're just on the different sides of one wall called the gut wall. The immune system is on the inside, while the gut flora is on the other side, inside the digestive system. They're talking to each other. They're communicating with each other. The gut flora is a major source of data for your immune system to act upon. And if the gut flora is abnormal, then the immune system is acting upon the wrong data. It's misguided. It's misfiring. At the same time, it becomes malnourished because it's a very hungry system. It needs feeding properly. And it's intoxicated. It's dealing with the river of toxicity that is coming from the gut, right through that wall, damaging the immune system, intoxicating the immune system. So no wonder the immune system cannot function. That is why we have so much autoimmunity nowadays, so many autoimmune conditions, so many allergies, asthma, eczema, various allergies, food intolerances. All of that, the root of all those disorders are sitting in the gut. So just by taking a few herbs, you're not going to straighten all that up. You're not going to remove all that damage. You're not going to undo all of that. You have to deal with the gut. That is the basis of treatment of any chronic disease. Every disease begins in the gut. And once you start doing the GAPS nutritional protocol and you are cleaning out that toxic barrel inside your belly, then the herbs can be extremely helpful on top of that. They can help you to go through various symptoms and detoxes easier, and They can deal with different pain and inflammation and other symptoms. And if your adrenals are exhausted, they can boost that a little bit. But adrenals love cholesterol. If you're not eating enough cholesterol and your liver is unable to produce it, no matter how many adaptogen herbs you take, your adrenals will collapse. They will be in a collapse because they're starving. They're very fatty organs and they love cholesterol. They make all their hormones from cholesterol. So that's essential. So the diet is extremely essential. That is a paramount, the most important baseline treatment for any disease, any chronic illness. People ask me about the mainstream medicine. There is a place for all forms of healing in this world, and mainstream medicine is wonderful at saving our lives when it comes to that, at dealing with emergencies and drastic situations. If you got run over by a truck, you wouldn't want an ambulance to take you to a homeopath, would you? You want the mainstream medicine, and fast, because mainstream medicine has wonderful ways of saving your life and putting your bits together and repairing, mechanically repairing you. But then the body will heal. But when it comes to chronic disease, to all those autoimmune conditions, to rheumatoid arthritis and diabetes type 1 and obesity and diabetes type 2 and cancer and heart disease and mental illness and learning disabilities and all sorts of other chronic illnesses that people are suffering from, the mainstream doctor is the last person you want to go to. And I'm telling you this as a doctor. You want to go to an alternative practitioner. They will know much more, they will understand much more what to do. And the baseline treatment where you have to start, you have to look at your gut. You have to look at the soil inside your digestive system where the roots of your health are sitting. That soil is likely to be sick. And if it's a sick soil, then the roots of your health are shrinking, shriveling, and they are toxic and they're sick. So as a result, the rest of your body cannot function properly. Heal your roots, heal your soil inside your digestive system, and then everything will start blossoming suddenly. All sorts of symptoms will start disappearing without you even having to do anything about it, even having to pay attention to them. And you will find that that's where the recovery begins. And then on top of that, once you've put that baseline into place, then you can add to it the herbalism and the acupuncture and homeopathy and chiropractic and all sorts of, and massage and spiritual healing and psychological healing and all sorts of other modalities which will help you in your individual situation. But first you have to put the foundation. Before you build a house and start thinking about terraces and conservatories and roofs, you have to put the foundation in, and the gut is your foundation. That's what you have to pay attention first and foremost.
What about some of these popular fads like juicing and detoxing? What are your thoughts on those?
That's a very good question. I'm glad you asked it. We have to talk about the whole vegetarianism movement around the world, because this world, particularly Western world, is full of nutritional misinformation. And vegetarianism is very much the propaganda that's coming to the population now from our mainstream agencies. That we should all be vegetarians, that we should all eat the vegetarian foods, and that's the healthiest way to live your life. It is possible to be a healthy vegetarian as long as you know what you're doing. But I have seen no end of people who have got into terrible trouble by becoming vegetarians. Large percent of youngsters with anorexia and bulimia and other eating disorders start from vegetarianism. They destroy their health through inappropriate vegetarianism and veganism. And what people need to understand here, and they don't understand it, that Mother Nature gave us two groups of food: animal foods and plant foods. And these two groups of foods work very differently in the body. In order for the animal foods, in order for the plant foods to be digested properly, Mother Nature has designed herbivorous animals. They have several stomachs called rumen, sheep and cows and elephants and giraffes and so on. They have rumen, 4 large stomachs which are full of bacteria. So it's not the cow that digests the grass and other plants that she consumes. It's the bacteria inside her rumen that break it down for her. And the interesting fact is that most of carbohydrate sugars that come from the grass, the cow absorbs in the form of saturated fat. because they convert it into short-chain saturated fatty acids, and that's how the cow absorbs grass. So the cow actually is on a very high-fat diet, and so is elephant, and so is giraffe, and so other ruminant animals. We human beings do not have a rumen. We only have a small stomach, which is similar to the stomach of predatory animals, and this stomach produces acid and pepsin, and these things are only fit to digest 4 groups of food, animal foods. They can only break down appropriately meat, fish, eggs, and dairy. As a result, these are the foods which feed the human body. These are the feeding foods. They build your bones and build your muscles and build your brain and build your immune system. They restore your regeneration processes. They heal your body. And they are structural elements. That's what you're made from. These are the foods that make your body and build your body. Plant matter is largely indigestible for the human digestive system. If you eat it raw in particular, it goes through us, leaving very little behind. But what the plants contribute for us, they contribute phytonutrients and some vitamins and juices and other substances, which are great cleansers. So plants were given to us by Mother Nature as cleansers to clean our bodies, to keep us clean on the inside. Whatever plant matter goes through your digestive system, contributing the cleansing substances, then lands in your bowel, and the bowel is an equivalent of a herbivorous rumen. That's where our bacteria, the large percent of our bacteria, is sitting, and they work on the fiber and they work on the starch in the plant matter and convert some of it into short-chain fatty acids to sustain you between meals. So again, all this plant matter we absorb as fat, but most of it goes through. People in traditional cultures knew this fact. People who lived for thousands of years all over the world in tribes and small groups, they knew that plant matter doesn't sustain you. That is why they went a long distance and put an extra effort into obtaining animal foods in their environment, whatever their environment provided, whether it's fish, or whether it's animals, or whether it's milk, or whether it's eggs, or anything from the animal. And they worked very hard on trying to make plants a little bit more digestible for the human digestive system. And the first method that traditional cultures have all used, they copied what happens in the rumen of a herbivorous animal. They fermented plants. They subjected them to bacteria. They would soak, for example, traditional tribes in Africa, they wouldn't dream of eating any grain, and their main grains are millet and sorghum that they eat. They wouldn't dream of eating these grains without fermenting them first. They would fill the tubs with this grain, cover it with water, let it ferment for about 2 weeks until it becomes all bubbly and frothy. Then they cook that millet. Then they ferment it again for a few days after they've cooked it. And then they grind it into a sludge or a flour and make their bread from it and cakes from it and make porridge or things like that. And only in that fermented form they would consume the grain. Because the fermentation process involves activity of bacteria, lactofermenting bacteria, and this bacteria will pre-digest the grain. They will digest it for you. So when you eat it in a fermented form, it is a digested food, and all the nutrients are released, and all the vitamins are released into the mixture. And in that form, our digestive system can handle the plant matter and absorb it more fully, and it can benefit the human body better. But trouble is, in the Western world, with our food industry interested in profit more than our health, they have changed all our traditional methods. People are not fermenting anymore. They're not pickling anything anymore, not making home preserves anymore. The food industry has changed all the recipes and all the way of using that. People develop various ways of cooking plants to make them a bit more digestible. But trouble is, when the plants are more digestible, when they're processed in such a way, their composition of protein to fat to carbohydrate is skewed very heavily towards carbohydrate. Plants have too much carbohydrates in them, particularly starchy plants. They're very, very heavy on this. And if the plant is processed, this carbohydrate becomes very digestible. It digests and absorbs very quickly. So anything made out of flour, anything made out of sugar, if you ate a cake or you ate a piece of bread or pasta or anything like that, it digests quite quickly and absorbs quite quickly, flooding your bloodstream with sugar. Because all carbohydrates, when they're broken down and absorbed, they absorb as molecules of glucose or dextrose and other sugars. So you suddenly have a huge influx of sugar coming into your bloodstream. And sugar is something that human body works very hard in controlling, because too high, too low can kill. And when such a huge amount of sugar floods into your bloodstream, the body goes into a state of shock. It has to produce large amounts of hormone called insulin in your pancreas in order to remove that sugar out of the bloodstream and push it into the cells of the body, so the cells can use it. And if it happens occasionally, this situation, the cells can cope, the body can cope, and you'll be okay. But if this situation happens regularly for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and in between, and day after day, and week after week, eventually the cells in the body have a limited capacity on how much sugar they can take. So if the insulin keeps pushing sugar into the cells in large amounts, the cells eventually say, enough, I can't take any longer anymore. So what they do, they become resistant to insulin. They start responding to insulin in order to limit the influx of sugar into their bodies. And suddenly the person becomes insulin resistant as a result. As a result, what does the body do if the person continues piling sugar into their bloodstream? They continue eating things made out of flour and sugar and other processed breakfast cereals in particular, sweet things, Coca-Colas and other soft drinks. And what happens? The pancreas starts producing increasing amounts of insulin, too much insulin, more and more and more and more insulin. So you finish up with too much insulin in your bloodstream all the time. And that is an absolute recipe for disaster, because first of all, insulin is a master fat storage hormone. So you start putting weight on and you start developing diabetes. Secondly, insulin changes metabolism in the body in such a way that it lays the ground for cancer formation in the body. So you become prone to cancer. The third thing that happens, insulin is a pro-inflammatory hormone. It will initiate inflammation in various tissues in the body, but will not allow that inflammation to stop. And as a result, you are constantly in a pro-inflammatory state. So you're prone to developing autoimmune disease, and you're prone to developing heart disease and various other chronic illnesses. And there are many, many other damaging things. Insulin will also, excessive insulin in the blood, will also skew your hormonal metabolism in the body. Because our hormones work as a team, they all talk to each other. And if one hormone is out of kink, the rest of them will compensate and become out of balance too. So your thyroid will become depressed, your adrenals will get exhausted, your sex hormones will be all over the place. So you will have PMS, and you'll have migraines and all sorts of other problems. And men will have all sorts of problems with sexual function. And everything in the body gets upset if you've got far too much insulin in your bloodstream. And that is caused by consumption of breakfast cereal for breakfast, and soft drinks all throughout the day, and sugar throughout the day, and things made out of flour and other grains throughout the day. So plant matter. So we veered a little bit away from the plants and the animal foods. Let's come back to vegetarianism and veganism. I've been to India in January this year, and I've met some Hindu pilgrims there who travel long distances to their sacred site. And part of their pilgrimage is a 41-day fast. And I've asked them, what kind of fast is this? And they say, oh, it's very, very difficult to survive this fast. I said, what do you actually eat or don't eat? And they said, we're allowed to eat rice, vegetables, fruit, vegetable oils, beans, and nuts, and drink water. And I thought, well, that's Western vegan diet, isn't it? And they call it a fast. Vegan, exactly. So vegan diet should not be called a diet. It is a fast. It should be called a vegan fast, because it does not feed the body. It provides a huge amount of cleansing. That is why in the first few weeks, when people who are particularly toxic become vegans, they feel very well, because their bodies are unloading toxins. A cleaner body always feels better than a toxic body. But then there will be a moment when the body finished cleansing and it becomes hungry. It needs feeding. And feeding only comes from animal foods. That's the moment when the body will give you a desire for a steak, or a whole roast chicken, or a pot of cream, or eggs and bacon, or something like that. But because there's so much politics involved in veganism and vegetarianism, and so much propaganda, people override those impulses. They don't listen to their body. They override it. And that's when deterioration begins. That's when the body starts starving, starts breaking down its own muscle mass to provide protein for the brain and other vital organs in the body. And that's when people become very ill. And I have seen thousands of people like that, particularly anorexics. They all begin as vegetarians and then vegans, majority of them. And many other people with mental illness go through these steps because of all the propaganda that we have in our world. So be careful and beware of it. I'm telling parents in my clinic that if your child suddenly comes home and announces that he or she is becoming a vegetarian, the last thing you should do is respect that. Send them to the library, send them online, make them buy every book and read every book on the subject, and then give a presentation to the family so they understand what they're doing before they go on such a life-changing regime. It is possible to be a healthy vegetarian as long as you include some animal foods in your diet. And a healthy vegetarian cultures exist in India. These people, I have met them, I have seen them. They all have either a cow or goats, and they all have ducks and chickens. So they eat large amounts of eggs and large amounts of dairy. That is where their feeding comes from. That's where structure of their bodies come from and function. All the rice and all the vegetables and beans that they're eating are cleansers. They don't feed the body to any large degree. They're just cleansers. They provide good cleansing for these people. So this is the only way that vegetarians can be healthy, if they continue consuming some animal foods. Veganism is a fast, and like any fast, it should not be used for a long period of time. Only for a short period of time to cleanse your body, and after that you need to start feeding it.
What about this? Sorry, what about this concept of intermittent fasting? I hear a lot about, fasting from 8 p.m. till noon the next day, and then feasting from noon till 8. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a good idea. That's a good idea because fasting is cleansing. Large percent, nobody calculated it, but certainly, more than half of all energy that your body has on a daily basis is spent on metabolizing food, on processing food. So once you stop eating, the body then can get to other jobs that are piling up somewhere. So it can clean something out. It's cleansing, it's very good. So fasting one day a week or just a few hours every few days is a good practice.
But you shouldn't intermittent fast long term. Like if I want to do intermittent fasting, I shouldn't do it year round. It should just be a short-term thing.
It's a short-term thing, exactly. There are people who have terrible illness who have recovered with long-term fasting from all sorts of illnesses, and I have met many people like that. I've met people who recovered from cancer, inoperable cancer, untreatable cancer, and these people fast more than 40 days. That kind of fasting on water, pure water, that kind of fasting must be done under professional supervision because there are a lot of nuances to long-term fasting where you can get into a lot of trouble. So it isn't something that anybody should undertake on their own at home. If you want to fast longer than 3 days, you need to go to a clinic and do it under professional supervision. But up to 3 days, it's perfectly safe to fast at home. Just drinking water, plenty of water, and nothing else. There are varieties of fasting. You don't have to be just on water. You can fast on juices. There's a juice fast. And then there is an apple fast. And then there is a grapes fast. And then there is a raw milk fast. And then there is a vegan fast. You can become a vegan for a couple of weeks or a few weeks. And that will provide nice cleansing as well for your body if that's what you need.
Excellent. Really, really good stuff today on the podcast. You just completely blew my mind. But what's one simple thing that you would leave the audience with that they could start with today to improve their gut health?
To improve their gut health. Read my book. Because it isn't just,
nice.
Yes, it isn't just one thing. And you need to understand what illness you have and where that illness comes from. But the message that I want to leave with people is that I don't believe that there is any disease that is incurable. I don't believe that there is one person on this planet that is beyond help. Any person, no matter how ill, how far your disease went, can be helped. And the only way to help yourself is if you do it yourself, if you're in charge of it. Do not give that power away to any doctor, anybody, any authority, anybody. What does the healing in your body is your own body. It's not the doctor who heals you. It's your own body that heals you. Other people can advise you. They can suggest things. They can provide support. They can give you ideas. but you are in charge. Once you take that power back and start learning and reading and speaking to professionals, you will find that there is a solution to your problem. There is no person that is beyond help.
That is excellent. I love it. Great stuff today. Thanks again for joining us on Exerscribe Radio, and I'll talk to you soon.
That's a pleasure.
If you haven't already, get your custom workout program by downloading the Exerscribe app from the iTunes App Store today.